Consumer Affairs Committee to order. To start us off, I would like to ask for my dear friend, Senator Burns, to start us off in a word of prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll join me, please. Father God, we're in the short rows. We're close to the end of a session that has been challenging, and we ask for your grace and your wisdom, and we appreciate the people of this state that grow the food and the fiber and the shelter that we all enjoy. Help us to do your will. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator. All righty, we have one bill on the agenda today, and it is from the senator from the 11th. Senator, you can present from here. You can however you want to do it.
Good. Looks good on.
All righty, you do look good on camera, almost as good as your roommate.
About that, Mr. Chairman.
The floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Well, thank y'all for your time today. I know it's late in session, and there's not a lot we can do with this bill, but I think it's an important subject matter to go ahead and get out there and have some conversation about, so we can be thinking about it over the summer, because it's becoming a growing issue across our state and across our nation. And what we've got here is a consumer protection bill. And it talks about, I guess some of the main things we're wanting to get at is some definitions of certain things and some transparency and fairness and truth in labeling. And this is mainly around our organic produce and organic beef and pasture-raised, grass-fed, all natural, certified. You hear all these terms, and it's, are consumers actually getting what they pay for? And who's checking these products? And we don't have a lot of these definitions in code, and we just don't have a lot of rules and regulations around it. Right now, we're just kind of taking everybody's word for it when they say it's organic or they say it's 100% grass fed. Well, how do you know that? Because they told you that. So we tried to tap the vegetable side, the beef side, as you'll see through here, and even poultry. We've had an outbreak of avian influenza across the country and even in our state, but we're not testing a lot of those free range chickens. And of course, when you start talking about poultry, and you look at a commercial grower who has a confinement unit, who employees and farmers have to keep locked doors and keep gated and sanitized going in and out. But then you have free range birds that are pasture raised down the road, and are we checking those for AI? And so there's just a lot of conversations as this continues to be a growing food product across the nation, and especially in our state. We want to make sure that people are actually getting what they pay for, and that maybe at some point in time we need to do a little more background check on some of these products and put some of these things in definition, so that we know what we're talking about and we know what they are, and actually engage the Department of Agriculture and how they can help. They're already checking for AI in commercial operations. What's one or two more? We've put some limits. We've excluded a lot of our smaller producers across the state, because at the end of the day, most of us, if you're dealing or purchasing from a smaller grower, you're close by to them and you know them personally, go to church with them or whatever the case may be, and you know what they're doing and you know them personally. But when you talk about a large scale, large retail and other things, you may not know who that farmer is, and you may not really know whether that product came from Mexico. Is it truly organic? How do you know it's organic? So those are some kind of the questions that we're trying to ask and figure out of some of this, and that's why we wanted to go ahead and get it out here before the committee and get some input, some questions and concerns or whatever it may be. But I think it's definitely something that we need to continue to have conversations about. And I think that's it, Mr. Chairman, and I'd just be glad to open it up for questions or comments, and go from there.
All righty. Do we have Senator Burns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the author, and I agree. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that the products that we sell in Georgia markets are correctly classified and labeled. Walk us through the testing process. So if I'm a large-scale produce producer, and it's defined as sales of at least $500,000 a year. Is that correct?
Correct.
So walk us through that. So we're going to test 3% of the organic product randomly on a monthly basis?
Well, again, this was just kind of some starting point language
Okay.
on what does that look like. You know, on a commercial side, we're pretty much subject to testing at any time.
At any time. Now,
You know, anywhere.
Do these guidelines kind of mirror what we're doing with USDA? Is this new legislation that's coming from perhaps another example or another environment that we're saying this might work in Georgia?
I would have to ask Legislative Council on some of that. If some of it I think is just kind of fairly new. Some of it we took from just conversations amongst ourselves. Some of it I think Legislative Council had to dig into some USDA stuff to see what kind of rules and regs were out there. But again, we just kind of wanted a starting point to have something to work on over the summer, because these 40-day sessions get full really quick.
Pretty quick, yeah.
They go by fast.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it now, because like you point out, it gives us a chance to consider it over the break, over the off season. How involved has our Georgia Department of Agriculture been involved? Have they been engaged in this discussion?
I've had some conversations with the commissioner about it, just letting him be aware of what we're doing. You know, in a lot of cases on the commercial side, they're already doing a lot of these things, but they don't necessarily have a organic division or an organic department that's
Right.
actually, you know, produce is pretty easy to check. You can test a vegetable. You can know that if it was sprayed with some kind of pesticide, that it was not supposed to be sprayed with. When you start talking about, you know, meat and poultry and beef, well, how do you really know that cow was 100% grass fed its entire life? How do you know that it was born on a farm and wasn't, you know, fed grain? Some of that gets a lot more complicated and verifying, but at the farmer level, you know, on my farm, when a calf is born, I document who the mother is, I tag the calf, I treat it with some different things, and I keep up with all that. And so a lot of this is going to sometimes probably be more of a burden on the farmer at the end of the day, because they're going to have to be prepared for this and keep up with that. But I have to do that on the commercial side of production anyway. We want to make sure that we've got a fair and level playing field, and that people, obviously organic costs more, so we want to make sure that people are getting what they pay for.
Yeah, if I label it organic, I expect a premium associated
Correct.
with that. Is that not true? Are we using the same definition of large in meat? I'm just looking for that. Do we have any?
Well, again, that was part of getting some of this
Getting
out
some
there.
started.
Just a lot of this stuff, you know, like we don't necessarily have some of this. We just kind of we're working through
Okay.
coming up with definitions of what things actually are. You know, what is pasture raised, what is a grass fed, and what is that? You know, what is that? How is that defined?
Gotcha.
So. Like I said, it's kind of a new thing, and organic's continuing to grow, and grass fed, all natural, certified, whatever. You know, there's a lot of different words that are used when we get into this kind of stuff. So we're just kind of wanting to get wrapped around it.
I appreciate your efforts in this project, and I look forward to continuing to kind of refine it and get it carefully defined and codified, and then perhaps I can have some certified grass-fed beef available for folks.
Sounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my friend. Question from Chairman Anderson.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. We need it. We need some clarification. Getting to the grass-fed beef, have we determined how long cattle have to be grass-fed to be classified as grass-fed?
We have not, and that's part of the reason we wanted to.
Have we done any research on, is there any research out there that we know of that could tell us how long grass-fed to be where you can say you really got a grass-fed carcass?
That's one of the part of the reason for bringing this was to try to do some of that research over the summer and find out what that is, because I know a lot of folks will market it as grass fed, but at some point in time in that animal's life it may get a little bit of grain or get a little bit of something to increase the marbling or the, the quality of the meat. And or somebody may just buy something from a sale barn that they don't have the history of the animal on, and then sell it as grass fed, but there may be a part of the life of that animal that it actually got some grain somewhere along the way. And so there's a whole bunch of different scenarios on what that looks like, but that's why we want to get a more defined definition of what is grass fed meat.
And I know you and I have talked individually together about, if you do buy cattle at a stockyard or cattle at an auction and then bring it home, and then, how are we going to determine how long that animal's got to be grass fed to be able to be certified as grass fed? That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get some clarification, and I'm glad you're bringing this. And we need to come up with. And let me ask you one more: is any other state doing this or has done this?
Not that I'm aware of yet.
Okay.
And I would want to ask that same question on produce.
Right.
I kind of know some of the rules, about transitioning from commercial production to organic production, but who's checking that on all this produce that's coming out of Mexico that, we're now a net importer of fruits and vegetables. So we're importing way more than we're growing here, but we don't know where it comes from, who's growing it, whether it's organic or not, because, we don't know the answers to any of the questions that we're talking about here today.
And then also one more is have you done any research on what if someone did falsely label the meat, and what would the fine be?
There are some penalties already, I think, in under the USDA code section. When just reading a little bit about it, USDA doesn't actually verify. They hire third-party organizations that'll actually go out to your farm. They're supposedly certified to be a organic, farm certifying organization. They look at your records, they make documentations and talk with you, and then they give you a stamp, and you pay them for that. And so we can have a conversation about that offline, but you're paying somebody to tell you that your operation is organic. I'm sure they've got some guidelines they have to follow, but that's currently, to my best understanding at this moment, that's how some of that plays out, that it's not actually a government official that's verifying that you're organic or not.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Summers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Watson, just a couple things that's going through my mind here, and I've dealt with this issue many times before, and some of the questions that Senator Burns was asking. I've raised cows for years and years and years. I raised a grass-fed cow and I raised a corn-fed cow. I'll be honest with you, you can't get a grass-fed cow. I don't care how good it is. You got to work hard at it. And I can guarantee you Howes and Bones is not serving grass-fed cows. I can tell you that right now.
No.
Okay? I can tell you. Thank you. But my point, going back to telling you this right here, is just, this applies, like your bill says, obviously for vegetables, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And things just got me on a little bit concerned. Where you're going with it is like, I spoke with the Tifton Division agriculture people way back probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago now. I went around and visited and talked with them because my wife had in her mind she wanted to do something organically on the farm, which I told her with the weed pressure and the insect pressure that we have in Georgia, it's virtually impossible. I don't know how you'll do it. You might do a half acre, but you ain't, you're not going to do it in a large production scale. He told me there were 3 people in Georgia that had the ability to go out in all of Georgia to say whether it was organic or not. And he said it's impossible for them to get to where they need to be. And he said then the reality of it is the checking they have to do for the soil testing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He said it's not like a one-day affair. It's a while. And so we're going to have to put some parameters there to figure out how we police that, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm assuming that'd go through the agriculture department on that part of it. And if you don't mind, in South Georgia, as you well know, we don't have a lot of grocery stores up here in Atlanta to compete with. So when you go to Walmart and you go to buy the lettuce in the Walmart, it'll say organic. And it's about 50 to 75 cents more than the lettuce that's not organic. Now, you and I both know there's no way we know if that's organic or not. It just got that beautiful sales pitch to it, organic. If we find out that lettuce is not organic, and these penalties right here about the beef, I see in $5,000 and $10,000 on line 146, 147. How would we control a Walmart who is beyond massive that supplies to the masses and knowing that lettuce, as Senator Anderson asked, may or may not be organic? I mean, that's going to be a challenge within itself. Am I on the right?
You are, and there are, I think, some federal USDA penalties already around that in their world. But again, I don't know how much of that they're actually enforcing or monitoring. Again, on the commercial side, there's so much more on the shelf. So you have all these inspectors that are going in and randomly pulling product off the shelf and checking our stuff. But I don't know how much of that's happening on the organic side of things or grass-fed side of things, which, as you know, organic, grass-fed, all natural, free, pasture-raised, all cost more than what me and you probably
Absolutely.
prefer.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of part of the issue here that we're trying to find out, what the issues are and how do we get around this. And it was just something I didn't think we could really do in a 40-day time period that we probably needed to work
Mr.
on.
Chairman, would you be able, let's take beef for example. Let's just say a guy is raising beef and saying it's organic. We have a place in Crisp County, as you well know, called Marview Farms. That's it. You've probably seen them advertised. Mm-hmm. They advertise organic beef. I'm not going to speak plus or minus about them, for or against them. I'm just saying, could they, if they were found that they were not doing what they said they did, would they be able to sell that beef to Florida and Alabama? How would we promulgate it to protect? I'm just asking.
Yeah, they might very well could. They can do that today,
Right.
of course. But again, we're not trying to tap the small farmers because you know them.
Sure.
And you know what they're doing. You
That's
ride
right.
by their farm and you
Right.
can see it. And that's usually the case on the
Right.
smaller level is,
You like the big feedlots and things that's
it's-
coming in,
yeah,
et cetera.
Yeah. So, but on a larger scale, sometimes it's I don't know that we are tracking a lot of that. So, just a lot of concern as this continues to grow and get to be a larger thing. So,
Well, we've certainly got a long way to go, but it's a good start, and I appreciate you bringing it to the table.
thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leader Eccles.
Thank you, Chairman. Senator, I appreciate you bringing this. This is a big deal, and this is, it's kind of like talking about the farmers market this morning. It's a heavy lift. It's work. But we here as farmers, freedom-loving farmers, I might add, over and over and over again that food security is national security. Over and over and over again, we hear that. I would equate this. Every one of us sitting at this table up here looks we're about as anti-regulation as they come. Safety and public safety sometimes infringes on what we think might be our rights, like going to the airport and having to go through scanners and metal detectors and all kind of things like that. I can't think of anything that would be more important than the food supply when it comes to these, especially I'm reading here I apologize for being late, but I'm reading here on the back end of it about the bird flu. You take a large backyard, it would obviously be more than a backyard flock, but a large free-range flock of chickens. It would literally take about 10 minutes to infect a multi-million-dollar hen farm or broiler farm in North Georgia. So this is definitely something that I appreciate you bringing forward. I started thinking a minute about the MAHA movement. The MAHA movement ain't worth much if everybody's hungry. So I look forward to helping you with this any way I can. Thank you for bringing it.
Well, and on that, some of the parts of this we may or may not be able to use. We get some definitions, and but like the AI stuff. The Department of Ag is already doing that. They're already randomly checking farms all over the state of Georgia. At this point, I don't want Commissioner Harper would probably shoot me, but what's 1 or 2, 3, 10 more when you're already checking hundreds of them on a regular basis? And you're probably going by them anyway, going to the next confined poultry operation. So some of this we can implement with minimal invasion to the department or extra additional cost to the department, but make a big difference when you start talking about avian influenza and some of these problems that we've had across the country.
All right, Senator Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and please pardon my tardiness. I have a large organic beef farm in Clay and Early counties, and that's Mr. Harris, Will Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, I think, Farmer of the Year here in the state of Georgia a few years back. Do we have any feedback from those producers of large farmers from organic farming? Do we have any feedback from them?
No, we hadn't. Obviously, this kind of came up pretty late in session, and we have not. We just tried to get something put together and get it before the committee and start this conversation and find out. But I would hope that they would be supportive of this to make sure that it protects their business model, because there could be a lot of bad actors out there that aren't abiding by these laws and rules and are either bringing product out of Mexico and then repackaging it and stamping it as organic, and who's really checked that? And same on the beef side or the poultry side. How do we know stuff coming into the country isn't getting repackaged once it comes into the United States and then gets distributed?
I would think that they would be supportive of something like this, because if you have somebody that's competing against you that's not doing it right and not doing it correctly, then they have really an unfair advantage in the marketplace.
Right.
That's
Well,
right.
we appreciate your offering the bill. Makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Chairman Burns.
Yeah, just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, again, I appreciate the conversation. I agree with my colleagues, and I agree with the author. Trade associations, I'm going to use Vidalia Onions as an example. The Vidalia Onion Association, group, commission, whatever, they are extremely protective of that brand. And they are extremely cautious about allowing anyone who would not qualify to label their product as Vidalia. And so I can go to the marketplace and I can buy a Vidalia onion, or I can buy a yellow onion, or I can buy a sweet onion, or I can buy a red onion, but I want to buy a Vidalia onion because they're the best. So I think what we're working toward is perhaps something along those lines. Would that not be an analogy?
Yes, very good. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
So I think one thing the committee might do is look at some of those existing industry groups to kind of give us some insight into how we could expand that to the producers who are impacting larger portions of our state.
Yep. They have very strict rules, and they have quite the niche market when
They
it comes
have
to
a very
Vidalia.
unique market, and I have a little dirt that would qualify if I chose to grow some onions, but I think I'd rather buy them from the existing environment. But I love the
right.
sweet onions, okay, the sweet Vidalia
Yes,
onions, not the Texas sweets. Oh, we like Texas, just not as much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm pretty skeptical when you look at how much imported produce is coming into the country, and anybody that has a smartphone can Google all the news articles that are out there where illegal drugs have been smuggled into the country. Right here in the Atlanta Farmers Market, thankfully we stood up the law enforcement division from Commissioner Harper, but they found 2,500 pounds of methamphetamine and imported Mexican celery. And so when you know that you've got these kind of things coming into our country and particularly into our state, one has to question if you're going to go so far as to use that mechanism to get illegal drugs in the country. Do we really believe that all these folks are doing what they need to do to the letter of the law to truly be producing their products organically. Is that a fair?
That is correct, and I know you know that under some of these recent tariffs that fruits and vegetables were excluded from that, and they're not going to be tariffs on those. So I can only imagine how that sector of our economy, imported produce, is going to continue to grow even more as we deal with things here in the United States that they don't have to deal with.
Yeah, I know. I was sure hoping we could get something done on that. I know you and I and probably several members of this committee and members on the House Ag Committee will be advocating for that in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions? All right, Leader Eccles.
I'll just say to Senator Burns' point that I think on the front end, I was talking a few minutes ago about the regulatory side of this. I think on the front end, hey, maybe it is a little bit more of a burden on the producer. On the back end, it creates a much more valuable, trusted product. So I commend you for bringing this again.
I'm sorry, Chairman. There you go.
One thing that just to point out for your bill, for all these folks listening out there, maybe panicking. If you're not trying to say it's organic, this ain't for you.
That's
I mean,
right.
you're good to go.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yep.
All righty, Chairman Anderson.
Just a comment. I'm just reading through here, about talking about vegetables, mushrooms, peanuts, tree nuts and all, but I don't see nothing in here about blueberries, strawberries, or peaches.
What is that? What's that?
I believe that's covered under produce.
Well, it says organic produce means any fruit.
I'm just you might want to bring that up.
Yeah. I'll make
Yeah.
a note on that. How about that, Mr. Chairman?
For our friends in the audience, everybody knows I'm a blueberry farmer, and a couple of years ago I had a bill to make the blueberry the official berry of Georgia, and started to amend a bill yesterday, but didn't want to mess with my friend from the House's bill. And some of my friends in the Senate played a joke on me, and I had an amendment put on my desk that was making the blackberry the official berry of Georgia, not the blueberry. So there for a minute I was, I'm like, nah, we can't have that. But that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'd like to do, if it suits the members of the committee, this bill is going to come back anyway, but I think that just to support our fellow senator, and I think everybody here is supportive of the effort. What I'd like to do is go ahead and vote it out of committee, and we have a motion do pass. We have a motion do pass from Chairman Anderson, and Chairman Burns, I believe Chairman Summers beat you to the punch on that, so the second was Chairman Summers. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, Ms. Rachel, we're going to raise our hand and say aye. All right, it looks like it passes unanimously, Senator, so we look forward to working on this throughout the summer. And as we go home and I'll get ready to do what we really make a living at,
That's right.
which is trying to farm. But I will say this, I do hope, as somebody that's a seventh generation South Georgia farmer and a produce farmer in the state of Georgia, I'm going to be working on trying to address with the administration the fact that produce from Mexico was exempted from tariffs. And I hope that everybody on this committee would be willing to help myself, Senator Watson, Senator Eccles, those of us that grow produce in that endeavor. Because what we have right now, we're competing against a country that pays about the same wage rate per day that we pay per hour. We're running Tier 4 engines. They can still run Tier 1 engines down there. But we're also now going to be seeing a tariff, and this is a good thing long term. It's going to be short term. I think it's going to cause some pain. But the fact of the matter is that a majority now of our plant protection products the raw materials are coming from China. These are the products that the American farmer has to have to feed the American people. And you think about what would happen if, say, God forbid, China moves on Taiwan and they decide they don't want to ship us these products anymore. So, I mean, we've got to onshore the production of these products. It is, in my opinion, a matter of national security that we are able to not only feed our fellow citizens, but that as much as possible, we're able to produce the products that the American farmer needs in this country in order to do that. That being said, I do hope that we can hopefully get our friends in the administration to look at putting a tariff on the imports coming from Mexico, because right now what we have is no tariff coming from Mexico, but we're going to be paying tariffs on the stuff that's coming from China. And I hope that we can address that. Because there were 550 members of my co-op 20 years ago, and there's 177 today. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I think America First includes our American produce farmers too, and our Georgia produce farmers. With that, farmer period. That's exactly right. We've lost. Now keep in mind, and I want to finish with this. For the first time in our nation's history, we have become a net importer of food. We had a $17 billion ag trade deficit in 23, $32 billion ag trade deficit in 24, and it's projected to be $49 billion this year. We are going down a path where we are dependent upon other countries to feed our citizens. So I'm not, I think that the tariffs have a place, but I also think that we need to address the tariffs that are coming in that we don't have currently from products coming from Mexico. Because I can tell you this, Georgia farmers are not putting methamphetamines and fentanyl and other things like that in produce and sending it to the Atlanta terminal market. So I want to thank you for bringing this bill, and I want to thank the members of this committee who have really, we've got a great committee, and I love every one of them. And thank you for the work that you've done on behalf of our state's #1 industry and Georgia's farm families this session, and it's an honor to get to serve on this committee with you. And with that, we'll be adjourned.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.